thought critically for this book, Loneliness. I'm going to give this book 3 out of 5. I would give it a 3.5, or a high 3 as I call it. Would be about 7 out of 10. There are some good, interesting parts, but I feel like there's a lot of research cited in the book. His research, the author or the author's researches, they did some research, and he goes in length explaining what they did. I'm not interested in it personally. So, and there is quite a few of them. So I didn't like that part, or those parts of the book. But other than that, there is some interesting parts here and there. So a high 3 I would give this. Let's see the notes. Tit for tat is the most effective strategy in game theory. I won't go in length what game theory is, but tit for tat, which is you do what the other do, is the best strategy for game theory. Genes of those who were more relied on others propagated faster and more effectively. That's why basically we're socialized. Those who rely on others propagated faster because they're more able to survive. What makes us lonely change with age. It's not the same all the time. It changes. Depression is general feeling, while loneliness is about relationship. So that's what happens. We have differences between depression and loneliness. Depression is just always, it's just kind of not related to any particular field or area of life. Loneliness is more about relationships. Depression can make someone more submissive, which used to be helpful in the past. It's like a dog showing their stomach. So if you're depressed, you're more submissive, and if there is a fight, for example, you show you're not a threat. That's what dogs do, not showing their stomachs. And babies in very young age can mimic others. They can already mimic others, and it shows that they're gonna do that in all kinds of emotions and situations. According to one, DNA is like an a leash, sorry. And I think that's a great analogy because elastic leash you have a leash, but it's elastic, so you can go. It's almost like a dog leash. You can go a little off track, but something holds you down. That's what DNA. You can go explore a little bit, but fundamentally you're bound by your genes. Great analogy. Some parts of the brain may be less or more active among infants, which affects negativity. So depends which part of the brain is more active. It also affects negativity. If there is a certain part that are more active, you're more likely to be negative, and the opposite. There is more sperm produced when male competition is around. There's more sperm produced that way because there is the competition. Oxytocin is released when massaging for both sides. When one gives a massage to the other, both get oxytocin as a consequence, and that shows that socializing and all that is beneficial. The act of sucking itself is soothing. That's why babies sucking their toes. The act of sucking itself is soothing. Side note, there is an overemphasis on the studies the author conducted. That's what I said in the review part. Talks in length about his studies, like way too long, and I don't find that interesting personally. As one said, there is no good and bad, only thinking make it so. Great idea. It's a known. I can't remember. I didn't write who said that, but there is no good and bad. Only what you think about it makes it good and bad, or bad. When we feel lonely, we look for threats, and threats we find. We will find those threats, and that's what happens when we're lonely. We look for threats, and we will find threats if we look for threats. That's a great, that explains a lot. When lonely, people are less likely to form new connections. they're just not interested in it, or they don't see the opportunities as clearly. Losing hair enables us to dissipate heat more effectively, efficiently, and therefore run longer. That's what helped us to run for longer times. It was the dissipation of heat, and that's what losing the hair contributed to. Older people tend to report being happier, generally speaking. People rely on their spouse for connection. More and more, people rely on their spouses other than their friends and other uh, social connections. They rely on their spouse, which is not good. We change the environment faster than we could change ourselves. So that's a quote. We change our environment. We're not fitted or we're not fit in that environment because it's changed much faster than we can change ourselves. Good idea. Getting the pet, getting a pet seems to be one of the favorite ways to avoid loneliness. That's what more and more people do. They get a pet in order to avoid loneliness. Parasocial connections are those we make with other objects such as pets, computers, or any other things. That's parasocial connection, and those are increased as well in recent years. So with everything, we can have a parasocial connection with a computer and any other object. One of the reasons online connections are inferior is the lack of body presence. Body presence of other people obviously creates all kinds of opportunities and situations, and we don't have it online. That's why we feel inferior and it's more tiring. Tit for tat is often the best strategy and is often automatically reached. That's what best strategy for socializing in a way, tit for tat, and it's also reached automatically. What the other do, we do, and it's kind of an equilibrium state. There is one that I don't know why it's not here, but the idea is that loneliness and alone is not the same because you can be alone, you can be lonely in public. Why alone? You cannot be alone in public, but you can be lonely in public. So again, that's it for the notes. There are some interesting parts. I would recommend if you're interested in the subject. I haven't read too many books about the subject, so I don't know to compare if that's good than others, but there's definitely some interesting parts. So that's going to be a high 3 or 3.5. Thank you.